Good evening. Thank you for joining us this evening to learn about the Black Hawk Bridge project. As everyone is getting settled, I just want to take a minute to let everyone know you are automatically muted. We will not be able to view your video or hear you. The only way you will be able to communicate with the panel this evening is by using the podium, which you will see to the right of the screen, and by calling in, which is information that was provided in the letters which were mailed out, and I will share again in a few minutes after the video is played. To begin, we're going to play a brief video, and when the video is nearly done, I will open up the podium so you can type your questions in. I will then read those out loud and the panel will answer them. Please be courteous and polite with your questions. Again, thanks for joining us this evening, and we will begin the video.
This public hearing is intended to provide an overview of the study process completed to date and an idea of the steps yet to come. During the hearing, we will describe the purpose of the proposed improvements, the preferred alternative, and give you an opportunity to provide input into the study. This is also an opportunity to comment on the de minimis use of federal refuge lands to construct the proposed improvements, which simply means we did everything possible to minimize the amount of federal refuge lands affected. In partnership with the Wisconsin DOT, we propose to construct a new bridge spanning the main channel of the Mississippi River, along with improving the intersection of Iowa 9 and Iowa 26 at the west end of the new bridge, and improving the east end of the Big Slough Bridge. Three public meetings have been held for the project. The first presented the purpose and need for the proposed project. The second shared the alternatives developed, and the third meeting focused on the alternatives selected for detailed evaluation, as well as the potential style of the new bridge. The project team has also engaged numerous federal agencies and state agencies from both Iowa and Wisconsin, indicated by the gray dots on the schedule. The preferred alternative we are presenting tonight is a decision based on several factors, including feedback from the federal and state agencies throughout the study process. All public input is shared with them. A final agency meeting will occur in 2021 to obtain concurrence on the preferred alternative. The purpose of this project is to replace the nearly 90-year-old Black Hawk Bridge across the Mississippi River at Lansing, while minimizing disturbances to the natural and historical environment. Because of its age and dimensions, the current bridge causes problems for both highway and river traffic. The primary need for the project is to address the condition and dimensions of the bridge. The bridge deck is only 21 feet wide, allowing one narrow travel lane in each direction. The bridge does not have shoulders, so when incidents occur or maintenance activities are needed, traffic on the bridge is limited to just one lane. Sometimes the bridge may be temporarily closed to traffic. The bridge has a vertical clearance of 14 feet 11 inches and a posted load rating of 40 tons maximum weight. That limits the size of vehicles that can use the crossing. In addition to the structural and roadway deficiencies described, the river crossing is also important in maintaining a connection to employment, business, educational, and health services. It also provides access to recreational areas and emergency services. Besides addressing these issues, the proposed bridge will make it easier and safer for barges and allow rail traffic under the bridge. Before choosing a preferred alternative, we look at many different things, including how building a new bridge and its location will affect the natural and man-made environment. In this instance, that means looking at everything shown on this slide, from protected lands and animals to residences and businesses. In addition to looking at environmental effects, federal law also requires us to minimize impacts of the new bridge on historic resources and public lands. In this case, that includes the Black Hawk Bridge itself, historic districts and buildings in Lansing, as well as several archaeological sites. Federal law also makes sure we do what we can to limit how the project affects recreational places like the Wildlife and Fish Refuge and Mount Hosmer Park. With that in mind, this slide shows three alternatives initially considered. The no-build alternative simply means the bridge would undergo major renovation by 2024 and be replaced in 2044. The rehabilitation reuse of the bridge would follow the no-build alternative, but instead of replacing the bridge for highway traffic, in the future, it could remain as a river crossing for only bikes and pedestrians. We also looked at building a new bridge exactly where the current bridge stands. This would mean closing the bridge and detouring traffic for 2 years or longer. Of these three alternatives, only the no-build alternative moved forward for evaluation, along with four other options for a new bridge. In other words, losing a river crossing at Lansing for highway traffic was not an option. A federally required study called an environmental assessment looked at the potential impacts of four build alternatives on new alignments in addition to the other alternatives mentioned previously. These alternatives would construct a new bridge and associated roadway improvements as shown in the drawings. The four build alternatives include the orange alternative. This would provide a new crossing considerably south of the existing crossing, extending through the refuge and connecting to St. John Street in Lansing. The orange alternative would affect historic resources and have the greatest impact on wetlands and refuge lands. It would also add travel distance and cost because of the longer road and bridge. The green alternative would provide a new crossing on a skewed alignment north of the existing crossing connecting to Iowa 26 between Henry and Gray Streets in Lansing. The green alternative would affect historic resources, wetlands, and refuge lands. Access to the Corps of Engineers beneficial use site for sand storage would not be affected. The purple alternative would provide a new crossing on the south side of the existing bridge. This alternative would affect historic resources, wetlands, and the beneficial use site. The blue alternative would provide a new crossing on an alignment on the north side of the existing bridge. The blue alternative would affect wetlands and refuge lands and would reconstruct the access to the beneficial use site. The blue alternative would result in the least overall impact to refuge lands of the build alternatives evaluated. The blue alternative would use approximately 5.9 acres of the refuge for construction of the new bridge. That includes areas that would be permanently and temporarily disturbed. Improvement of the access and parking area at Big Slough Landing are included in the impact estimate. The Iowa Department of Transportation, on behalf of the Federal Highway Administration, has contacted staff from the Upper Mississippi River National Wildlife and Fish Refuge to discuss the project. Pending closure of the comment period, we will move forward with making a de minimis impact determination. A de minimis impact involves minor use of the protected Section 4F property. Because the blue alternative just north of the current bridge has the least amount of impact on the environment and historical and cultural resources, it is our preferred alternative. This would also create a new intersection of Iowa 9 and Iowa 26 that would make it easier for traffic entering and exiting the bridge, especially large trucks. Access to Big Slough Landing and the beneficial use site also would be improved. In consideration of input received from the public during the study process, the project team, with concurrence from Wisconsin DOT and Federal Highway, developed this bridge design. This bridge design also serves as mitigation under Section 106 of the National Historic Preservation Act for the removal of the existing Black Hawk Bridge. As shown here, we currently have two potential designs developed for the piers and retaining walls. We are seeking public input on these two options to establish a preferred design. Please indicate your preference in the comments link. This picture is available on the website to view at any time. We will ask for public input again during the final design this winter as we develop more details. We have estimated the project to cost $80.8 million based on the level of preliminary design completed to date. Wisconsin DOT will pay for 50% of the project cost. It is programmed in fiscal year 2024, and construction could begin within the fiscal year timeframe of July 1st, 2023 to June 30th, 2024. The bridge will take 2 full years to complete. The current bridge will remain open except for the last few months of construction when it will have to close to complete the project. Upon completion of ongoing studies and agency coordination, the Federal Highway Administration anticipates issuing its environmental decision later this year. When that occurs, we will continue final design and begin the right-of-way acquisition. Thank you for attending this presentation for the environmental assessment for the Iowa 9 River Crossing. As you review the preferred alternative and the minimal use of the wildlife refuge, please submit your comments by June 30th to be included in the public hearing documentation. Comments received after June 30th will still be reviewed, but will not be included in the final documentation. As final design continues this winter, we will host more meetings for the public to review updates. Here are the staff members that will be answering your questions this evening. Please write comments in the chat box for the moderator to read out loud, or call the phone number and wait for your turn. This meeting is being recorded for documentation of the public hearing. Thank you.
All right, we're now going to have our live Q&A session. You should see the Join the Podium button to the right, and after clicking that, you will be able to submit your questions or comment. Once we start getting comments, I will read them aloud for everyone to hear, and the panel will answer. If you aren't comfortable asking questions in this group session, you can always go to our website. You may also call the following phone number, 1-844-992-4726 to ask a question. The meeting number is 1-322-254-6426. If you have a question, press *3 and you'll be placed in the queue. And once you have been selected to speak, your hand will be lowered and directions will be given through your phone. It does take about 30 seconds of delay if we have a caller. And if you call in, please state your name and address for the meeting record. We are going to take about a 2-minute break to allow individuals to begin to submit your questions. And I'll be back in 2 minutes. Question? All right, just a reminder that you may call in using the following number, 1-844-992-4726 to ask a question. And that meeting number again is 1-322-254-6426. And if you have a question, you press the *3 and you'll be placed in the queue. All right, so we have our first question from Darren S. Is there a let date determined for the project?
Yes, good evening, everybody. I just want to first off express my appreciation for all the interest that you have in this project. And Darren, right now, the project is programmed in fiscal year 2024, and that runs from July 1 of 2023 to June 30th of 2024. Right now, we're trying to be as aggressive as we can and get that letting date in the early part of that fiscal year 2024, which would be in the summer timeframe of 2023. So that's just a rough letting date. There's a lot of design work that still needs to be done between now and that time. And so that'll determine the actual letting date closer as we get to fiscal year 2024.
All right, we have a comment from Lisa O. I like the historic aesthetic pier design. A comment from Susan C. The design is a great compilation of old and new. Great work on the design of the new bridge. And Susan C. I wasn't able to get into the meeting, so I missed most of the initial video. Is this available to view on YouTube? Yes, there will actually be after this. You can actually go out to the website where you are viewing it from now, and there is an at your own pace, and you can see all of this. And then I will also hook this exact meeting up after the meeting, so you can hear all of the comments too. Sarah Yu, we love the design chosen. Will there be excavating on the east hillside that may affect homes above the current bridge that sit on the hill?
If I'm understanding the question correctly, Sarah, if you're talking about property that would be on the west side of 26, there is no anticipated excavation in that area. There might be a little bit of roadway work, but not major excavation.
Question from Jean and Barbara S. When will property acquisition begin?
Yes, the process will be that after this meeting tonight, there will be additional meeting with in concurrence with the other resource agencies later on this fall. We will have another meeting this fall for right-of-way, and so negotiations will start after that. So we're anticipating that property negotiations will occur later on this fall and into the winter.
A comment from Lisa O. How many homes will need to be demolished?
At this time, we're looking at potentially 2 homes that will need to be demolished. Again, that's What we're looking at right now, that's pretty much a certainty. As we go through the final design process, there might be other properties that will be minorly impacted, but that's what we're looking at this point, 2 homes.
A question from Granville V. The presenter mentioned that the old bridge would be closed for 2 months at the end of construction. Which months are we talking about?
Yeah, at this point, we can't be that exact. We are still, at this point, we're closing out the environmental process of the project. We're going to be getting into final design, and that's going to happen in the next couple of years. And so the old bridge will be closed, actually be closer to 5 months. And it's anticipated at this point that it'll be in the summer or fall of 2025. But again, we need to look at that closer as we move along in the process to determine exactly when those dates are going to be.
Question from Patricia C. Has a final design and location been chosen for the project?
Basically, yes. I mean, that is the result of our study. I mean, what we've shown you today is the final, is our preferred location and the preferred final design. We are looking for additional input tonight into that determination. But essentially, with all the studies that we've done over the years, all the things that have been looked at environmentally, archaeologically, historically, this is our preferred final design and preferred location of the new bridge.
A comment from Kelly F. Happy to see you chose the design most like the current bridge. Will it be possible for the Lions Club to reestablish the memorial lights on the new bridge? And what Lansing properties will be lost to the new bridge footprint?
Yes, we are looking at, we are talking with Lansing, the city of Lansing, on possibility of lights being put on the new bridge. That responsibility at this point would typically, the cost associated that would be for those new lights would be with Lansing. But that's, again, we're talking with Lansing right now on the possibility of doing that and of the interest of Lansing to do that. Next, I'm sorry, go back to that last one. And what Lansing properties will be?
Yeah, what Lansing properties will be lost to the new bridge footprint?
There'll be 2 homes at this point that we've identified that are north of the existing bridge. I don't, in front of me, have the specific names of the property owners there, but that's the general, that's the location of the preferred alternative.
All right, question from William J. and Susan KB. The information provided so far is very clear and informative. Will there be any piers in the main channel?
There will be 2 piers in the main channel, but they're actually going to be farther, they're going to be closer to shore than what they are now. That was one of the aspects of the bridge that we wanted to improve the navigational aspects of the location in the bridge. So yes, there's going to be 2 piers that are in the channel. It's not going to be in the, I don't believe they'll be in the main channel, but they'll be in the water. But they're going to be, as I said, closer to the shores.
Yeah, John, I can jump in on this as well. The Coast Guard has dictated a minimum span of 750 feet for the navigation channel. And so the westernmost pier for that main span will be right on the Iowa bank. And then the next pier at the edge of the navigation channel will be 750 feet away. And that's an improvement from the existing span, which is only 640 feet.
All right, I think Samantha and John kind of answered this question, but I'll share it. From Carl R. Isn't part of the reason to rebuild the bridge to keep it from getting hit by barges? And if so, why is there still a pier in the river?
I can take this one, John. So there have been over 20 collisions of barges with the existing bridge piers, you're right. And that is part of the reason why the Coast Guard is wanting us to increase that main span from 640 feet for existing to the 750 feet for the proposed bridge. And these piers are going to be constructed and designed for the impact loads of a fully loaded barge tow.
And I just want to go back. I'm going to apologize. I've been talking a lot, and I don't think I introduced myself at the beginning of the question and answers. My name is John Ranney. I'm the District 2 engineer. I'm located in Mason City. District 2 is basically the 19 counties in northeast Iowa, running from Kossuth County over to the Mississippi, and then from Minnesota down to Waterloo. So I apologize for not introducing myself before.
A question from Betty Jo and Richard WZ. Will new bridge have a pedestrian area crossing the river? I've been told providing a pedestrian path is written into the applicable law.
Actually, the bridge will not have a pedestrian area crossing designated on the bridge across the river. What we do have is a bridge now that's going to have 8-foot wide shoulders on each side and two 12-foot travel lanes. The guardrail that we're looking at is a 50-inch guardrail, which is higher than your typical guardrail. And so that is to, kind of help with the safety of possibly pedestrians or possibly bicycles that might be on the bridge.
All right, Sarah, you just wanted to make sure that this is from a question previous. Sorry, I meant the West. So we'll go on to Curtis M. Great design. What is the road surface? Is the frequency difference between the pilar designs from wind going through them?
Yeah, the road surface has not yet been determined. Again, as we go through final design, some of those decisions, those decisions will be made. And no, there's the frequency difference between the pier designs is there basically is none, no difference.
A comment from Thomas W. Another vote for the historic aesthetic pier design. Are there any plans for nighttime lighting of the new bridge structure?
Yeah, and as I answered previously, I mean, we will be working with the city, with Lansing, to see, what their interest is on the possibly lighting the new bridge, and we will be having ongoing discussions in the upcoming time frame to look at that possibility or discuss it with Lansing.
Comment from Sarah Yu. What will happen to the old current bridge?
We actually looked at the current bridge and if there would be some possible interest in having that current bridge, somebody else using it. And essentially what we've done is we've, the existing bridge, excuse me one second. We did contact a number of stakeholders and provided a donation offer. And also the bridge was listed as available for adoption for the last couple of years on the Iowa DOT Historic Bridge website. And there were no adoption approvals that were received. So right now, well, the bridge is going to be demolished.
All right, question from Susan C. So is the blue plan the one that is 50 feet north of the current bridge, or is it the one further north?
Yeah, the blue plan is the one that's just north of the existing bridge. I'm not sure if it's exactly 50 feet north, but it's the one that's closest. It's the one that's north of the current bridge, but is closest to the current bridge. It's the blue one, not blue alternative, not the green alternative that was shown in the presentation.
Question from Jean and Barbara S. As my property is one of the two scheduled for destruction, what is the latest date for resident occupation?
Shelley, could you help me with that answer, please?
I'm sorry, Valerie, could you repeat the question, please?
Yes. As my property is one of the two scheduled for destruction, what is the latest date for resident occupation?
Okay, I'm not real sure what they're asking there. If they are in occupancy when we start negotiations, they would be eligible for relocation assistance if that is their primary residence, and we would also acquire the home. I'm not real sure if that's the question being asked or not.
I'm assuming what they're asking, and they can type in if I'm wrong. How long can they stay in their house?
Okay. It will depend a lot on the letting date, when that occurs. But we are required by law to give everyone a minimum of 90 days written notice from the date we make an offer to purchase. Generally, we see it lasting more like 4 to 6 months, but that will depend on a lot of circumstances.
Okay. Comment from Sean R. and Tina MG. I really like the historical design. Great work replicating the current bridge. Question from Lisa O. Is the bottom of the bridge going to be graded as it is now?
No, it won't be.
And question from Carl R. Our property is immediately north of the new location. What steps will be taken to make sure there is no damage to our house? And is there someone we can be in contact with during the process?
Yes, as construction is taking place, we will determine whether the vibration monitors will be needed on the structures. Also, there will be a person in place to be in contact with during the process, and I'm assuming the process is the construction process. So yes, we will definitely be in contact with you on what steps will be taken to make sure there's no damage to your property, and we will definitely ensure that you will have a contact during construction.
All right, that's all the questions I have. Sherry, do we have any callers?
We do.
Okay.
What happened?
Caller, you can go ahead with your question.
Oh, are you talking to me?
I think so. I can't see your name, so I'm sorry.
This is Patty Kobrigger. I am the next house up from the bridge after Jean Sweeney. And I know I talked to a couple of you, and one of the documents said that I was absolutely for sure going to be acquired, and the next said not. But I know that Shelley and Brennan both said that there would be a retaining wall and a sidewalk and probably some except fors in my situation. Now, I guess when will I know where that retaining wall is from my front door, and if I have any options?
Yes, I mean, we do plan on having a meeting this fall to go over the specific right-of-way needs. And so I would anticipate it this fall is when we would go over, exact locations of what types of structures are going to be built. So again, the answer would be that the time frame would be this fall, probably later this fall.
Okay, and then another question I had was the edge of the right-of-way, basically from the existing new bridge, to my lot line is going to be pretty much right on the lot line, or if not over it. So will I be at all compensated, and how will that affect? I have a B&B there, and I will, in essence, lose my B&B because I will have no parking in the front of my home or the B&B. Is that something where there's going to be some compensation, or am I just, I guess I have questions about that.
Shelley, can you help me on this one as well?
Sure. Hi, Patty.
Hi, Shelley.
If there is a need for us to acquire any land from you, we would do that. And if it is determined that it's indeed going to put you out of business, that is something that we would look at, and you would be entitled to some compensation for that. We just have to kind of wait and see how close it's going to be, and if it truly is going to require the acquisition of your business.
Okay, because I do know that, I mean, if the parking in front is taken, that ends my business because I have no place for my guests to park, nor will I have any place handy for me to park. But I will try to be patient and wait till fall and wait to hear from you.
Okay, thank you.
Yep.
Sherry, do we have any other callers?
That was the only caller.
Okay, so I had a couple more questions come in. Lisa O, what will the name of the new bridge be?
That has not yet been discussed. It is Iowa 9, so, but no, a new bridge name has not been discussed.
All right, a question from Sarah Yu. Will the pillars of the old bridge be removed? And if so, at what depth?
Yes, the old piers will be removed, and at this point, we're thinking it's going to be about 1 foot deep, 1 foot below the ground surface.
Question from Jean and Barbara S. The answer to my question, if there are offers made this fall, I will not have access to my property during the summer of 2022. Is that correct?
Shelley, again, please, can you help me with this?
If your property is acquired in part, you would still have access to it. If we're going to acquire it in complete, a total acquisition, it's just going to depend on a lot of circumstances of when we reach an agreement to the purchase and when you're able to vacate and so forth. So at this time, it's really difficult to say for sure.
Question from John D. What measures will be taken to incorporate redundancy that typically is not found in trusses? Also, will the bridge need to be flagged during in-service inspections, or is adequate depth width provided to maintain one lane in each direction along with the snooper truck?
John, I can take
Sam?
that one.
I was just say, Sam, could you help me with this one?
Yep. So in the existing Blackhawk Bridge, we have a lot of those pin tension members, and those are susceptible to fatigue. And so the new truss would not contain any of those type of members. And honestly, at this point, we've just completed preliminary design. So the final design of the structure will be done by a different consultant. And so specific details of the truss have not been determined yet, but I would imagine that a snooper truck would probably not fit in the 8-foot shoulder, and that a flagger would be needed to close down one lane during inspections. But those are only every 2 years, so it would not be too much of an inconvenience.
All right, that's all the questions I have. Do we have any more callers, Sherry?
Yes, Valerie, we have another caller.
Okay. There is a 30-second delay, so everybody just hold on. Sherry, can you go ahead and manually unmute them?
It's fighting me, but yes, I'm trying. It's being stubborn.
All right, let me take another question and see if we can get them unmuted. So Kelly F., will the memorial stones under the bridge be left untouched, or will they be moved elsewhere?
We will need to work with the city on that further, and also as the design gets more finalized, we'll be able to make that determination. But we are very much aware of the memorial stones under the existing bridge.
All right, any luck, Sherry?
I am not having any luck. Oh, they're gone.
Okay,
Oh,
well,
sorry.
try again. We have another question from Betty Joe and Richard WZ. Is there any reason why the name Blackhawk Bridge cannot be retained?
Again, we still need to have that discussion, but at this point, again, we haven't got into what the possible name of a new bridge would be.
Question from Lisa O. What color will the bridge be?
Yeah, as we go through final design, we'll be looking at that and discussing that question.
Question from Thomas W. What will the speed limit be on the new bridge?
Hey, Sam, can you help me on this one too? I think I know the answer, but again, could you help me on this one?
Yes. So I believe it will be 30 miles per hour once you get onto the actual bridge. And then maybe as you get into the Big Slough Bridge area, the speed will increase to 40.
That is all the questions I have. Any callers, Sherry?
No.
All right, let's just give it just a minute to see if anybody else asks any more questions.
And also, Val, before you sign off, I just have a couple other additional comments, so.
All right, why don't you go ahead and make those while we're waiting to see if anybody else has any questions.
You know, again, I just wanted to say thanks, everybody, for your interest in this project. I kind of wanted to try and give you an idea of what you know, the residents of Lansing will actually be seeing in the next couple of years before construction gets going. You know, again, we're hosting this meeting tonight. This fall, we anticipate that the environmental document will be approved, and so there'll be a notice for that. We will have a public meeting this fall for right-of-way. And then after that, the property negotiations will begin. We'll continue discussions with Lansing on the bridge lighting and a couple of the other questions that we had. You may see some individuals out there for continued studies of mussels or mitigation for the mussels. And so you might be seeing that as well. And basically, and the project is again scheduled to be let in, you know, rough time frame of July of 2023. And there will be possibly some work going on in the fall of 2023. You know, that's still yet to be determined as we go through final design. But between now and July of 2023, you'll see a lot of outreach from the DOT to Lansing, you know, as the design is ongoing. We are going to establish communication with business owners and other stakeholders through the process. And so again, just for Lansing residents, I mean, you'll be seeing a lot more communication from the DOT after we have this, really what is a major milestone for this project completed this fall. And again, I would ask that any of you that are on the line that you know, contact the DOT with any questions that you have or comments that you have between now and basically between July of 2023. Please communicate with us and we will do the same. So again, thank you for your interest in the project.
Valerie, we do have a caller.
Okay.
Caller, go ahead.
All right, I think we have the caller. Do you have a question? Well, I'm not hearing the caller. So Kelly F has asked if you can show the pier design slide again. So I don't know if you can pull that up, Sherry.
One moment. Let me just back up here. That's not gonna work. Can we see that?
Yes.
Yeah.
It's just popping up on YouTube. And that's all the questions I have. Don't know if we want to have the caller try again. Well, it doesn't appear we're having any luck with the call-in user. And I don't have
No.
questions. I would say, caller, that to go ahead and use our online comment form online. And I'm going to go ahead and wrap up our online hearing for tonight. Thanks again for joining us. A recording of this video is available on the same website you used to join this online hearing. You will also find several displays where you can zoom in on different parts of the project area you may be interested in, as well as the ability to leave a comment or question. And have a great rest of your evening.